So sorry about that, we're back. Bit of a technical glitch there. That's one of the things of living out in the countryside. So yeah, once we've got a theoretical framework built from established knowledge, then the next thing is we use what's called an analytical tool. And the one I like to use is what I call the $5 million questions. They're a set of questions that I've used many times over to collect information from people so that we can then compare what people are experiencing to what the theory says should be happening. Okay, so so the questions are all based around the objectives that somebody's working towards, and this is usually something like a half an hour, it's what's called a semi-structured interview. So there are a set of questions which are pre-planned, but then depending on what people give as a response to the question, then the skill really is to ask those probing questions, open-ended probing questions, to dig deeper into what somebody's experiencing. So the first question is, these are the goals, what do they mean to you? And by that is, if these goals were accomplished, what would it mean for our customers? What would it mean for the organization as a whole? What would it mean for our department, our team? And what would it mean for you personally? How would you feel if these goals were accomplished? How would that make you feel? And then the next question, what needs to happen for these goals to be achieved? Who needs to be involved? What do they need to know, and what do they need to be able to do? And the next question then is, what are you doing to reach the goals? What knowledge and skills are you bringing to bear? And then the next question, question 4, what problems and difficulties are you experiencing? And then the last question is whatever we want to evaluate. So if it's a change strategy that's being implemented, we could ask, how is this change strategy going to help you with your work? That would be an interesting one to be able to ask people before a change strategy starts, right? How will the changes that are planned help you in your work? So typically with questions 1 and 2, what we're looking for there is that the person is engaged and excited, enthusiastic about accomplishing the objectives. If there's no sort of enthusiasm or willingness, we know there's a problem. Second question, who needs to be involved? These kind of questions can't be asked really for somebody who's completely brand new into a particular job or an organization. These questions need to be with people who've probably got at least 3 months experience in the work, so that they've had long enough to sort of identify who's involved and where the gaps and shortfalls are, if there are any, where the gaps are. So questions 1 and 2, if we get fluffy, woolly answers, if we don't get some pretty good detail descriptions there, that's a red flag, but we'll come to that on another session. And then by asking, what are you doing to reach the goals? You're checking up on the job description. Is the job description, is the knowledge and skills relevant, or are they lacking in some way? And then that question, what problems and difficulties are you having reaching the goals? And typically what shows up there is problems with teamwork, communication, problem solving, ineffective relationships, that kind of thing. And then again, how will, whatever you want to evaluate, how will this training program, how will this change strategy, How do the core values of the organization help you reach the goals? These are all good information finding, discovering questions. Probably the most powerful, I did an evaluation of training in the non-profit organization I was part of, and I was doing an evaluation of training opportunities, and the question, how will the training help you? The answer was, well, we've been doing these kind of courses for years and they don't make the slightest bit of difference. And so that was known all along, but it wasn't uncovered until the right question was asked. So hopefully with our theoretical framework and our $5 million questions, we start to form some accurate perceptions, because accurate perceptions are vital for good communication and effective communication and good decision making. The next one I've put down as a lack of motivation, or the failure to gain the willing cooperation and active participation of people in whatever we're trying to achieve. And this is where, going back to the example of the training workshops for the young men, they sort of came in, they got started, but there wasn't a motivation to keep going when they felt that things were getting too much, impossible, like, oh, this isn't going to work. So that lack of intrinsic motivation for the long haul wasn't there. The danger is we're generating more and more the need for instant gratification. Everything is done on a short time cycle. You only have to wait a minute for your food to be cooked now in the microwave. So that kind of behaviors is having a knock-on effect into motivation. And this links in with a goal orientation, or performance expectation, or a learning expectation. And that's all connected in with the work of Carol S. Dweck. But again, that's going to be for another time. So then number 4, ineffective relationships. And what I'm thinking about here is, if our relationships aren't, if our relationships have been, particularly if they've been broken with different things that have happened in the past, then trying to work together to get something done becomes more and more difficult, to the point where if relationships have totally broken down, then you're back into that impossible situation again. I have to say that the success that I've experienced as a leader, as a manager, as an evaluation officer in local government, that was down to building good relationships. Okay, next one, number 5, no environment for learning. And the most extreme case is that toxic bully boy blame culture. Nobody wants to take a risk, nobody wants to take a chance, nobody wants to do anything different out of the norm, because that's going to incur the wrath of somebody or a group of people. Okay, so that learning environment is an absolutely critical part of the change process. People have to be, because to learn means experimenting and failing. Okay, so there needs to be that safe kind of environment for that learning to occur. The next one, co-creation not valued. I first came across the term co-creation probably about 3 years ago now. The Canadian Evaluation Society were holding a national conference, and the theme was co-creation in healthcare. And the idea of co-creation is that it's people working in true partnership. So it's moving beyond consultation giving people a voice and participation, giving people a choice. It's moving beyond that to people working in true partnership. So, being in true partnership means not a hierarchical structure, but people relating to each other on equal terms. And like, if one suffers, we all suffer, and if one rejoices, we all rejoice. It's that kind of thinking. And so that's again, I mean, all these steps really are critical. The next one, old habits die hard. And like, if you're like me and try to change eating habits to be able to improve health, the body doesn't want to, will do everything to fight that. Okay, so there's something about human nature, human behavior, the stimulus response conditioning, where we get into set patterns and routines, and those are very difficult. We can sometimes, what can happen is we can try something new, and it's running along, but then as soon as there's a problem, we will revert back to the old ways of doing things. Loss of integrity. Leadership is the ability, one of the ways I think about leadership, it's the ability to be able to influence. And the ability to influence is tied in very closely with integrity. And so I think this is quite possibly why we see political voter turnout rates can be incredibly low. Where I was in South Wales, in local government elections, you'd get about 40% of the people go to vote, which when the winning person has 40% of the vote, that means the person who's running as a local councillor has got 16% of the population supporting them. So okay, manipulation, sociopathic behavior, jealousy and selfish ambition. I sometimes talk about the spirits of Ahab and Jezebel alive and well in the 21st century. This jealousy and selfish ambition leads to all kinds of chaos and sometimes murder. And what I mean by murder is character assassination. That's where people will speak badly about somebody, or I've actually had it where my work was interfered with. I was working, it was very early on, I was working in a factory type environment, and somebody actually came in when nobody else was there and messed around with the things I was working on so that it failed, basically, after it was sent out to the customer. And that's, you know, that was a deliberate attempt to make me look bad and to take my credibility, if you like. And then the last one, number 10, last but not least, it's insufficient resilience, to be able to keep going when things get tough, not able to overcome adversity. And this is where the rubber hits really. You know, we can come all the way through this and then stumble at the last hurdle, because if there isn't that resilience within individuals, within teams, within the organization as a whole, the ability to bounce back when things get tough, the ability to keep going when things get tough, then that's another obstacle. So those are the 10 reasons change strategies fail. Just a brief outline, and look forward to any questions you have. please feel free to email me at freeradicalsteve@hotmail.com. That's freeradicalsteve@hotmail.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Steve Dines LinkedIn, Gravenhurst, Ontario. And I'm also on Facebook. And I have a Facebook page, Steve Dines Management Coaching. So by all means, if you have any questions, if you'd like to find out more, get in touch with me and I'll be very happy to help. Thanks and bye for now.